Greetings and welcome to another Lessons with Odin. On this episode, I will be showing you how to make this adorable earring bezel-y goodness type deal thing. It features dragon scales and Gemduos, everybody's favorite, and I managed to get them to stick up in the proper orientation, which is exciting. So, you can use these as earrings, you can use these as a pendant. I'm using a smaller Rivolis than usual because I wanted to use them as earrings. This is also kind of a compound tutorial because this video I'm going to show you how to make this one, but for my patrons over at Patreon, I'm going to be taking it one step further for September's design and create something a little bit more extravagant. I kind of like the A-frame hangy thing going on, so we will be learning how to make this over on my Patreon page. So if you are a muser or above, which is $1, I will show you how to make this accessory. And even if you don't like the way this is combined, which is understandable, you might want to follow anyway because of the way I've structured these. I teach you a lot of different techniques, like this chain with the dragon scales just hanging around like a pair of leaves. So you can use that in other bracelets. You can use that in your own chains, like a necklace chain or bracelets. This technique down here can be used as a chain as well. I have attached dragon scales on the sides of it, so you can kind of alter that pattern if you'd like. So come and join me on our Patreon page, patreon.com/odins.musings. There is a link in the description box. So for this project, you will need a fully bezeled 12mm Rivoli using a Peyote Bezel. So for that, you will obviously need a 12mm Rivoli, a set of Delica beads, and size 15 seed beads. If you don't know how to do a Peyote Bezel, I have a video on that. Check it out up in the corner here or down in the description box. Since this is a 12mm, you will need 15 stitches. The video that I show you uses a 14mm, which requires 18 stitches, but for this one, you're going to need 15. You will need 6 diamond or gem duos, 4 4mm bicones, 4 3mm bicones, and about 24 dragon scales. And of course, your ear wires or whatever you are planning on hanging this on. And of course, your needle and thread. I am using Nymo and a size 12 beading needle. Definitely a size 12. We're going to have some fun getting in between these crevices. And before we get started, make sure you are pretty comfortable with peyote and how it works and functions. Be familiar with the steps around and how you basically navigate in and around, because basically this stitch is done with a lot of turning. So we use one thread, then we're going to turn it using the wider spaces, moving through single spaces, and going back to 2 spaces. So if you're just starting out with peyote, this might not be the best tutorial for you, but feel free to come along and join us because I will get into details and hopefully you will have a nice piece of your own. And with all that being said, let us get started. We're going to start off by anchoring on our Diamonduos. We're going to be using these rows here. So we're going to start off with a 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's what we're going to use to attach everything together. My thread is coming out of one of the pairs. In my instance, it's the top. Doesn't matter what direction it is on the Rivoli because it's going to be evenly spaced on the center of our bezel. I'm going to then add one size 15, one Gemduo, one size 15, and when I thread it on, I want to make sure that my front of my Gemduo is on the front of our bezel. So I'm going to pull that down. Then, from where my thread is coming out of, I'm going to immediately jump across to the next Delica bead on that same row. So we have 2 Delica beads that are on the front. I'm moving toward the next one over so that we anchor that Diamonduo down. Now, my thread is coming out of an outside bead on our bezel. I want to move to that center bead in between the two rows. So we have a pattern of 5. I'm going in the center of those 5 beads. I'm going to add a size 15, a 3mm bicone, size 15, 1 Gemduo, again taking care as to how I thread it to make sure that when I pull it through, it's going to face the front of the bezel. Then finish it with a size 15, 3mm size 15. Then we're going to loop back through that same center bead to form a giant picot around that Delica bead so that it sits forward like this. Then I'm going to reinforce that once more just to make sure, since I'm using Nymo and that's kind of weak at this point, just to make sure we have some nice security there. So I'm just going to go back up through the 15 bicone 15, through the Diamonduo, down the 15 bicone 15, and through that center Delica once more. Once that's secure, I'm coming out of the Delica bead. I want to move back forward to the front row of Delicas so that we're parallel to the one that we added here. So I'm just going to pass through that Delica bead, add on our size 15, Gemduo size 15, again paying attention to the way it's facing. Then we are going to pass through the front bead next over. So my thread started at this bead, I'm going to move over to the next bead. Then we'll have our Diamonduo anchored, and you see it's kind of flopping around, so I'm going to move around to the back in order to reinforce these in place. So, my thread is coming out of a pair of Delicas. I'm just going to turn my thread by passing to the Delica row behind where we started from. I'm going to add 1 size 15, pass through the bottom hole of the first Gemduo, add on 1 more size 15, then pass through the next Delica forward. So that this anchors the Diamonduo on both ends of the bezel. We have 2 size 15s on the front, 2 size 15s on the back. To reinforce the center one, I'm going to add 1 size 15. Then I'm going to pass up immediately through the bicone and the top size 15. We're skipping the one on the underneath. Then we're going through the Gemduo, going down the size 15 and the bicone. We are skipping the size 15 at the bottom. To finish the anchor, we add 1 size 15 and then pass through the next Delica over. This is us again on the backmost row of our peyote. Then we've anchored the center one. All that's left is the beginning. So I'm going to add 1 size 15, pass through the bottom hole, add on 1 more size 15, then pass through the Delica next over. Now that we have our Diamonduos in place, the next thing we have to do is anchor our dragon scales. And when we're doing this, the only thing we are going to do is touch the 2 regions of our Delica band. We're not going to be touching any of the center beads, and the pattern itself is very repetitive. It's just there's a lot of steps to it in order to get the right proper pattern that we want. But just to kind of give a basic overview, we want our dragon scales facing upwards so that the scale part is basically facing out. And to achieve that, we have 4 seed beads, 2 on the front and 2 on the back of them. And it's spread in between each of these Delica rows on the peyote. So let's break that down to explain it a bit further. I am coming out of a Delica bead on the outside. I'm going to add a size 15, a dragon scale, a size 15, and I'm going to pass my thread through the opposite bead on that same row. It's kind of hard to see with the Diamonduo in the way, but this is where we started from. We added our beads, and we're going to end up through the front. We started from the back, we're moving to the front. We pull that down to attach the dragon scale. Now, I'm just going to move around underneath the peyote. I'm going to flip it back to our back again, pass back through that peyote, that Delica that we started from in our peyote. I'm going to go up through the size 15, through the dragon scale, and we've effectively anchored this one, but we need to continue on to add 2 more beads and also start our next pattern. So from the dragon scale, I have my beadwork out in the front. I'm going to add 1 size 15 and jump forward 1 Delica bead. This is on the frontmost side. I'm going to then add a 15, scale 15, and move over. My thread is coming out of the front side. I'm going to move to the back and go through the next Delica bead over on the back side. Now we need to complete the previous scale, since it only has 1, 2, 3 size 15s attached to it. I'm going to add 1 size 15, pass through the dragon scale. And that's basically one complete pattern. So let's break it down once more to move to the next row. So right now, I need to move over to the next dragon scale to attach that, anchor it down once more, and add a new scale. So, I'm going to pass down the size 15 of the previous scale, move through the next Delica, go up the size 15 through the second dragon scale, pass through the dragon scale, add 1 size 15, flip toward the back, and go through the next Delica bead. Add on a size 15 dragon scale, size 15. My thread is coming out of the Delica on the back side. We move forward, going through the opposite Delica bead on the front row to anchor the new dragon scale. And we only have 3 size 15s on this middle one, so I'm going to add a size 15, pass through the dragon scale, and that essentially completes the set. So we'll prepare again. This time it's going to start at the back. As you make each scale, if you started from the front on the first side, you're going to start from the back on the next scale. You're going to flip-flop around as you do these. So, starting from the back, I'm coming out of a dragon scale. I'm going to go down the next size 15, through the next Delica, up a size 15, through the dragon scale. Flip over to the front, add 1 size 15, pass through the next Delica bead over, add on size 15, scale size 15, move to the back row and go backward through a Delica that is parallel to where you started. Add on a size 15, pass through the dragon scale, and then repeat all the way around until you've reached the side with the next Diamonduo. So when you've reached your last dragon scale, it's similar steps to anchor it, but we're not going to add any more scales. So you go through the Delica at the far row, you go up a size 15, through the Dragonscale, add on your size 15, and then push it into the Delica bead that is next to the size 15 under the Diamonduos. So that's bead number 3. And we're simply going to rope it around to the front, pass through the next Delica bead over. It's okay if you catch threads in there. They're not really going to be seen because you can go around and underneath this size 15 in order to get through there, but it's not always going to be too clean, and don't stress about it. Add on your last size 15, pass through the Dragonscale to complete the pattern. Now, take your time with this. I've broken it down step by step as best as I could, and if you're still having troubles, try it with bigger sizes. Dig out those size 8 Delicas that you bought for that one project and is currently collecting dust because you've never used that size anymore. Totally not calling myself out. Use a bigger bezel, use size 11 beads instead of size 15s to kind of see the pattern better. Because basically, you're just looking for a channel made of dragon scales, and there are 4 size 15s in between covering each dragon scale. So try it with maybe size 8s if you're having trouble finding the pattern. Do size 11s on here instead so you can see everything better. And use a larger bezel. Now all that is left is to add a bail. So I've got my thread on the back of my bezel. What I'm going to do is kind of take the center Diamonduo on the opposite side as a guide to kind of mark 2 center size 15 seed beads. And I'm going to make my way up there. So I'm just going to use the peyote stitch in order to get things sorted out. Let's see, that one, yeah. So I've picked up the outer Delica. Then I'm just going to move up the immediate size 15. So that's going to be my left size 15, and I'm going to use the next one over on this side as my right size 15. I'm going to add a size 15, a 4mm bicone, 3 size 15s, bicone, and another size 15. I'm going to pull that down, then go immediately next over to the size 15 on the right. And we form a loop, but you can kind of see the size 15s at the top don't want to turn into a nice hangy bit, so we're going to pop that point. So from that size 15, we'll just go back around through that Delica bead again, up through 2 size 15s, through the bicone, pick up the first size 15, skip over the second, pick up the third, and the bicone. And when we pull this tight, we're going to pass our thread underneath that center one, pull tight, so that now we have a better loop for our earring wire to get through. Then you'll just reinforce it and end your threads, and then you can attach your ear wire. And then you will have your finished piece. I really like the way this turned out. It's simple, yet not at the same time, so I don't know, I just really had fun with this. I love the pointy, sticky, outy bits. It kind of looks like a sunflower. If you did it with different colors, it would give a different aesthetic, but I don't know. I like coming up with this, and I really liked how I was able to manage to get the leaves sticking up and sticky outy, so yeah. And don't forget, if you want to take it one step further, over on my Patreon page, so where we will be learning how to create this monstrosity, which is really cool. And even if you don't like it the way it's assembled, once again, I will show you the different techniques on the different chains, so that you can use these on different jewelry projects. So if you would like to join me there, come and join me at Patreon. Link is in the description. And I think that will do it from me. Be sure to like up this video and subscribe if you want to see more bullshit from me. Be sure to share with me your pictures if you decide to make this yourself. I want to see what your color combinations are. So you can even leave me a comment down in the description box with a link to a picture of what you made, or join us at our Facebook group at Creations from Lessons with Odin. Be sure to also follow me around social media. I've got new bits coming on. I have just released a pre-order for my newest book, so be sure to check that out, either in the description box, on my blog, where have you. So, thank y'all so much for joining me, and of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to let me know down below, and I will see you next time.